Beloved Creator of all that is, all beings of light and love, we are assembled and to task increasingly as the pace to change and to transition quickens. We can all feel it, a certain tension. It's in the air. We are not afraid, but ready for whatever comes, for we know that we are on track, that we are clear in our mission from your divine directive for the good of all. We are in deep gratitude for the hard work and the great risks countless others have taken to bring us to this point of near liberation from the cabal, our oppressors. We call you in at any point of our days, in all of our days, to be reminded and to express gratitude that we were born for this, that this is why we are here now, doing what we are doing for the win and rescue of humanity. What a joy and a gift to be alive in this magical time of transition and transformation into a higher expression of who we are. Let it be so, and so it is.
Thank you, Charlie.
My pleasure.
Hello, my name's Ron Vroom, and I'm the old white man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. I'm making this recording to reach out to all the people, no persons at all unless they're first person singular of people, in assemblies. Those that recognize the difference between an assembly and a society, and those that have Article 1, Section 1, such as we have on Oregon, where you have a social compact. On Oregon, we are the provisional government. There's several hundred of us that are signed up with an LTA, a living testimony in the form of an affidavit of truth, that are in the jury pool. And we have an Article 3, Amendment 7, Civilian Court of Record. And we have a grand jury. And all of that is controlled and being operated by the administrative procedures of our group, the de jure provisional government on Oregon. It took 5 years, step by step, but we figured out how to do it and stay out of jail, and nobody's really too upset with us. So, you have to do the work. And it has to be done individually, not for the greater good, but individually by you. Nobody can do it for you, and you cannot do it alone. That's why you need a social compact or an assembly or a jural assembly to activate the representative form of government that we are required constitutionally to have. A constitutional Republican form of government. It's all written down. We just activated it. And I think that's part of the problem. If you start at the very beginning, it's absolutely insane to think that pilgrims and Protestants and Pennsylvania and all of those diverse and very unfriendly religions that populated the original 13 colonies. They had no acceptance of others at all for a really long time. But in 1776, all of that went by the wayside because representatives of, what is that word? It always evades me. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America had not even named themselves yet, and they declared, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people. They had already declared that the 13 of them were one people. When they arrived here, they couldn't stand the other people to even be around them. You had to be my flavor of religion, or you could not even be in the same state with me. That's where they started from. Now they're one people under American common law, invented by them to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Yep. They became one people and they are dissolving their bands with the monarchies. Now, everybody thinks it's just the King of England. Well, it wasn't. The Dutch king was in there also. And they eventually had to make friends and settle up with the Spanish and the French and the Russians. And they did. So, after they did all of that and won the war on the land, but it was only an armistice between two generals, His Excellency George Washington and the other guy for England, that was leading German mercenaries, I believe. They quit the battle on the land of the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. In 1777, they formed a confederation and perpetual union. You gotta, people nowadays laugh and say you cannot have a perpetual union. A union can only last as long as the trust, and yada, yada, yada. They could do anything they wanted. They were the first generation of sovereign men and women without a ruler and with no subjects, although they did have slaves. So now that group that was a perpetual union named themselves the United States of America. They styled themselves that. That was what their language said they did. But they were still the Confederation and Perpetual Union. They had only styled themselves the United States of America so they would have a name. They went on to form come on, brain, just the words, select ones, disappear. The states' representatives formed a Congress assembled under the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union, and they had a president, and they tried to function as a nation among nations. Now, they had declared themselves to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. Decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires So they couldn't govern. Their first effort was not functioning. It required 13 of them to all agree to do the same thing. Failed almost every time. So they wrote a new plan and they said it only takes 9 and we all go. And they all agreed to that. And they sent the document out, and the document came back, but only 12 came back. They only needed 9 and they got 12, so they went ahead. They treated Rhode Island and Providence Plantation poorly until Rhode Island decided to acquiesce and join. Rhode Island was tiny, still is tiny, and they were afraid they'd get gobbled up. But they didn't. They still there today. Only it's just Rhode Island now. They dropped the and Providence Plantation. It's probably there if you look. So there, they broke the perpetual union and they fixed it. They brought Rhode Island back into the fold and they proceeded on. And they immediately made 10 amendments to the document that they just made to correct the document that didn't work. And those 10 amendments made it through. All of the states agreed to it. They ratified it. They only needed 9. They got all of them. And they made the first 10 amendments. Then they made 11, 12, and 13. And 18, 19. They made 13th Amendment Anti-Titles of Nobility Act. They call it 13 Tona. That is the 13th Amendment. That amendment functioned from 1819 through each iteration of that Constitution, which is just one of the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. And the Perpetual Union, in law, with the Congress assembled, continued forward until 1859 when they brought in the 33rd. They had brought in 20 new states from the time they started. So their constitution and its functioning had worked all of those years to 1859. So from 1776 to 1859, they made it work in a de jure form of government, however screwed up it was, and it was. There was lying, cheating, and stealing going on everywhere. They were shooting people and hanging people. It's tough work to steal all that land from all of those indigenous people and from all of those kings in Europe and from all of the pirates that wanted a piece of the action. They made it all the way to 1859, from sea to shining sea, with a whole bunch in the middle, the flyover land, that was not populated sufficiently to become a state. That was territorial for the United States of America, located in Washington, District of Columbia. That was corporate but not incorporated. It was still a government in Congress assembled. Now, they had made a lot of treaties that were bogus. And I'm not sure how the statutes at large were, but I do know the statutes at large for 1858 was written after Lee and Grant signed an armistice. And that was 1865 or something like that. So they didn't write 58 for 7 or 8 or 9 years. And when they wrote a lie and they published it in the statutes at large. People do stuff like that. So then in 1859, we had a constitutional Republican form of government that was functioning and had functioned for a really long time. In 1860, on the 24th of December, South Carolina split before Lincoln became president. And they had every right to do it. And we got to bring them back, just like Rhode Island. Same deal exactly. We need to restore the Union. The only way out is straight ahead, and to go straight ahead, we need all of us. So we got to go get South Carolina. So how do you get South Carolina and return to a constitutional Republican form of government? Because they have been lying, cheating, and stealing since March 1861, and the liars, the cheaters, and the stealers are bar attorneys. I don't say all attorneys, and I don't say all lawyers, because I know one that's not a member of a bar association, and she is an attorney. She is a lawyer in Pennsylvania. So I know the creature exists. However, the generals of the Army, Grant, and all the rest of them, were in command. They had murdered whoever they is, Lincoln, who had brought about the martial law. Then there was a chink in the armor called Ex parte Milligan. And the Supreme Court of the United States, which is located in Washington, District of Columbia, forts, ports, military bases, and territories. And the whole center of the land was territories that was governed by the United States. So when the Supreme Court talked, it really meant a lot then. So Ex parte Milligan says you cannot have martial law on the land if you have a civilian court of record. So Indiana had it. Indiana lost it eventually. And there was no civilian court on the land. It was only martial law everywhere. And the martial law is a law that they operate with bar attorneys. The JAG, the Judge Advocate General's Office of the military, is bar attorneys. That's who it is. And we're asking them for help. And they've been the one enslaving us with bar attorneys, and the industrial part of the nation's corporate industry incorporated commercial division, such as big petroleum, big coal, big iron, transportation, railroads, the barons, the robber barons of industry that the old time legislators wrote laws against so that it couldn't happen again. And they repealed those laws under William Jefferson Clinton and George Herbert Walker Bush. So that which should not be, which is something other than a constitutional Republican form of government, has been in existence a substitute of that since March 1861, a benevolent form of martial law. They flipped it. It was play pretend from then that we had a constitution and a constitutional republican form of government. You'd frequently ask yourself, how can that possibly be? And it couldn't, but it was. And that kept happening from 1860 all the way through. In 1913, they made a big one against us, and they made it through. It worked. We got the Fed. Then we got FDR, and he took all the gold. Son of a bitch. Then we got Nixon and Kissinger, and they took all the gold, and they gave us petroleum-backed dollars. One of the reasons they killed Kennedy is because he was giving silver certificates backed by the Treasury. So this is going out to those people in assemblies and in social compacts to do the work. Here on Oregon, and to my knowledge, we are so far ahead of any other assembly that whatever they're doing, it's almost like they're in reverse. It is. Anna had them all together going in the wrong direction for a long time, and then a whole bunch of them decided not to go in that direction anymore, so they split, which is similar to going in reverse, because now you got to recover all the ground that you went the wrong direction on to get back to the Article 4, Section 4. So that's where we're getting back to. You have to know what the goal is. We are leaving the de facto form of government. Black's Law, page 416, de facto is all the things that they say it is. It is actually, it's in charge, it's who's in Carson City, Sacramento, Salem, Olympia, Boise, and so forth. That's who de facto is, and you can't deny it, it's there. But it's not legitimate and it's not legal. And they know it. And they back down. And Charlie took it straight to, I think her name was Margaret or Martha, the Oregon Supreme Court Chief Justice, and she split rather than to have to deal with the truth coming from Charlie. This is something that you need to know from your position as being in an assembly. 62.5% of the population will not speak the truth to de facto. They will not. Yes, sir. No, sir. Here's my license. Yes, I will. I live at so and so. I'll be there. And yes, Your Honor, I am a U.S. citizen. That's who they are. 62.5% of them. They think we're nuts. I know I was them. So, what you have to do is get 5 or 6 people on your state. It's not counties. Counties comes way later. We have to get 33 legitimate, lawful states together in a form of a constitutional Republican form of government and have a quarry, a quorum, not a quarry. You got to have a quorum, so that's 20. So 20 of us have to meet in a Congress assembled legitimately. You have to have your bona fides. It takes a little work to get them, but you get your bona fides and you send your representative to a Congress assemble, and we can have original jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction, the only place where a man can go against the state and get remedy constitutionally, where the people are actually in charge. And it's not for the greater good. It's for each one of us individually to have our unalienable rights every fucking time. That's where original jurisdiction is. And we cannot let them falter. And they have been, and they are. And eventually, it all has to get fixed. But you have to know what you're fixing before you start fixing, because you don't want to fix what's not broke. Leave it alone. Don't pick at it. The most important thing is to have a Jural assembly on each and every state with one focus, returning to a constitutional Republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4. That's it. There is nothing else that we're doing. Anything else is a sidetrack. That's where original jurisdiction is in our form of government, which is not Islam. It's not Christianity. It's laws of nature and of nature's God. Not a religion, God, state of mind. So, www.orsja.org. That's where we are. That's where we're doing it. Our point of action right now, after 5 years of doing this, is physically in the flesh, going up against face to face the Sheriff's Association on Oregon and their board of directors. Eventually, that's where it will have to be with each and every one of the several states except Alaska and Rhode Island. They don't have counties and they don't have sheriffs. So they cannot participate in that. They have to figure out another way of doing it. But we have sheriffs, and sheriffs are the first step. If you don't have the chief executive of your county in a de jure law form doing what is lawfully required, I get to read this. Cynthia's not here. No, she's not. We declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right, that all power is inherent in the people, and free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, and they have at all times the right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper. And how do you do that? You do that by being a social compact. And how do you become a social compact, they said? Go to www.orsja.org. So, we're at 1859 in our history, lawfully. Everything since then has been in color of law. Chicks don't get to vote until that's corrected. Black guys are still slaves until that's corrected. Indians are going to be as downtrodden as they can possibly be until it's corrected, because that's where original jurisdiction was in 1859. All the gains that are positive and the wonderful things that have happened in the elevation of our psyche, it's there, it happened, it was done, but it was done without law. It was done in color of law, just like all the evil things they did were done in color of law. You got to fix it from the place where it was broken. So we have to go there and fix it, and then gather in all the territories that were made states unlawfully and illegitimately, and bring forth everything reasonably and properly without the de facto. Government is not in business to rape and pillage the people. You and me, all of us. Leave us alone. Unless we're doing something or we call for you. This is a constitutional Republican form of government, and to my knowledge, the only way you can get it back is to follow the directions. A guy named Larry came on and talked to us once. He said, you don't go back, you go straight ahead. The best way out is moving forward, and that's what we're doing. I yield.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. Then he jumps out of the car, and he's got both his hands up. And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, just shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I fought. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, shot him 3 more times.